You're listening to the Life Like You Mean It podcast, episode number 18. How many times in a day do you ask yourself, why me? Or you think it's too late for whatever it is you're looking to do? Perhaps you find yourself keeping so busy each day that you just don't have the time to deal with that upsetting issue or that big business idea you had last week. Maybe you're dreaming of leaving your corporate 9 to 5 to become an entrepreneur, but you know you can't leave your job and be able to pay for your lifestyle. Or even better yet, you have these grand ideas for something, like say your New Year's resolutions. And when making your plan to implement them, you set yourself up for failure instead of success. Today we're talking about the excuses we make for why we'll never be good enough, never have the money, never have the time to make our dreams a reality. My guest today, Rachel Shackleton, the founder of both Green Key Health and Green Key Personal Development, a naturopath, herbal medicine practitioner, kinesiologist, and personal development trainer, is breaking down the archetypes behind our excuses so we can open our minds to different possibilities. Rachel talks today about so many fascinating concepts, from the 5 different bodies and their contribution to dis-ease, to our soul path and the excuses we make for why we do not change. And of course, this wouldn't be a holiday special if we weren't giving you tips to create balance over the holidays. Are you ready to learn all about these archetypes that might be getting in your way of making lasting change that could literally change your life? I am telling you, I was amazed with this conversation today. So let's dive right in and let you meet my friend, Rachel.
You're listening to the Life Like You Mean It podcast, where we firmly believe that you and only you have the power to make the changes you seek in your life. Survivor of 10 years of child abuse, Lisa Sabaniak, will help you to empower yourself to overcome your limitations in whatever form they take to build the life you truly deserve. It's time to hear from fellow experts who know firsthand what building a successful and satisfying life because of our past experiences is like, and exactly what it takes to do it. If you're ready, willing and able to get honest with yourself, roll up your sleeves and get your hands dirty with the hard work that lasting change takes, you're in the right place. Here's your host, NLP practitioner, speaker, Reiki master, author, and chipaholic, Lisa Sabaniak.
Today's episode is dedicated to daily greatness, offering the best planners I've ever seen or used to help you change your habits and hold yourself accountable to your goals. After offering their original planner, they've branched out to now offer the most incredible planners for parents, wellness, yoga, business, and success. I started with the business planner and was, and still am, blown away. I've simply never seen anything like this. Everyone knows that changing or making new habits takes perseverance, and that's where a lot of us go wrong. We have a great goal and even a plan to reach the goal, but we don't hold ourselves to implementing the plan for more than a few days or weeks at most. That's where this planner comes in. You see, daily greatness understands that the way you start your day determines how you spend your day. And of course, the way you spend your day determines your future. The intuitive flow of the daily greatness concept gives you a foundation and a structure to your days that support you in achieving your goals. That's right, not only are you setting goals with these planners, but you are following up on those goals, changing your disempowering habits to empowering ones, acknowledging your strengths, challenging your fears, and so much more. For more information about these awesome planners, go to lifelikeyoumeanit.com/planners. Again, that's lifelikeyoumeanit.com/planners. Hello, Rachel Shackleton. Thank you so much for being on the Life Like You Mean It podcast today. How are you?
I'm very good. Thanks, Lisa, and thanks for the invitation. It's really exciting.
You're so welcome. I just know that our listeners are going to get so much out of this because you've got such an amazing background and the work that you do is so incredible. I just know there's going to be so many people listening to this that are just going to have their minds blown. So let's get right into it. I would like to know, when you're talking about the formation of dis-ease, you speak about the 5 bodies. Can you explain what these 5 bodies are to our listeners?
Yes, so when we have the disease manifestation, clearly that is the physical body. We see it, we feel it, and that is the disease that ends up with a name, whatever that name might be, leukemia, hypertension, gout, etc. However, in order to get to the physical body, disease travels through several other bodies. The one closest to the physical body is the etheric body, which is the main protector of the physical, if you like. And its purpose is to form a matrix for a development, maintenance, and repair of the physical body. So it's like a mesh around the physical body, and it contains the vibrational energy related to each organ, the blood vessels, and the bones, which are in the physical body. Then we have, moving out from the body, we have the emotional body. And as the name suggests, this contains all the emotional patterns, feelings, and vibrations that determine our personality, how we feel about ourselves, how we interact with others, and so on. Now, if we're constantly in a positive emotion, obviously we're creating positive vibrations. If we're slipping into negative emotions such as anger, guilt, fear, these vibrations get locked into this energy field of the emotional body and therefore become a part of our behavior, our personality, in terms of repeating the same patterns.
So
And
fascinating.
yeah, and moving out, well, you see with many people that we repeat the same patterns over and over. And that's because it's got locked into the emotional body, which then starts to go through the etheric into the physical. Then moving out, we have the mental body, and this is patterns similar to the emotional body, but it's patterns of thought and our belief systems that we consider are true. And that means that there is a strong connection between our behaviors and this mental body. So we manifest powerful thoughts, we manifest powerful reactions to comments, to thoughts, to ideas, and that means that we react differently in the mental body to the different situations. But again, if we start to create a pattern, it gets locked in. And then we have the spiritual body, and this body contains all the information related to our experiences. It reflects our consciousness and everything that we've learned and experienced in the spiritual body, not necessarily in this lifetime. It also contains our higher intentions, which is what links this soul path, this desire that somebody might have, for example, to, I don't know, want to work with dogs, or want to be a fireman, or be a doctor, or whatever it is, that something is driving us. And this is what is the information that's in this spiritual body. And it allows us to, if we're listening to it, to achieve our mission for this lifetime.
Oh my gosh, I've got so many different questions to come off of this. I'm sure everybody does too. Okay, my first question is, you talked a lot about having these kind of locked patterns, whether it's mentally or whether it is energetically. How do you unlock them?
That's an extremely good question, and certainly depending on how long you've been manifesting these patterns will depend on really the answer to that question. There are a number of things that need to be addressed. However, the first one is definitely becoming aware of your patterns. If you don't have those patterns in a state of awareness, then it's very difficult to do anything about them, because what you don't know.
Right.
And that means examining, if you like, patterns of your own reaction to different situations, to the same type of situation, and patterns of behavior as a result of that. And therefore, why do you keep going round the same hamster wheel?
Yeah.
And in order to come out of the hamster wheel, we have to learn the message coming from the pattern. And that sounds so easy, and certainly it is not so easy. Perhaps considering in there is flowing more with the situation and trying not to block it, being more in a zone of acceptance. That doesn't mean accept that you are born into a particular role. That's not what I mean at all. It's just acceptance of, okay, this is the pattern. Now what am I going to do about it? Right. Rather than running away from it or blocking it or ignoring it or burying it or whatever it might be.
Right. That makes sense. So once you recognize it, that's half the battle, then is it kind of part of your soul path that you would, if you're in tune with yourself, you'll have a natural kind of desire to start going down a certain path that will help you to unlock?
I think that's definitely something to consider in terms of our soul path. If we get in touch with our inner core through things like meditation, mindfulness, intentional breathing, those kinds of things, we do have that inner guidance. And that means that really it's coming from something much deeper, which is your spiritual body. Yeah.
Right. And this is part of the work that you do. If somebody feels like they are stuck, whether they know what is the kind of sticking point, what's locked in there, whether they realize the pattern or not, this is part of what you do, is helping them to figure out what the pattern is. And once they've got it, help to actually create that balance and get that pattern shifted.
Yes, that's right. And that's where I think kinesiology is so powerful, because when you work with kinesiology, you are accessing the inner knowing rather than the brain. So the body is actually the thing that's communicating with the kinesiologist, who then picks up the different pieces of information via different things to start to help to put that jigsaw puzzle together for the client.
Right. That is so fascinating. So, okay, you talked a little bit earlier, you mentioned the soul path. So I am so curious about this. What is our soul path?
Wow, that's a very big question. In a nutshell, it is why are you here? And what is your purpose in this lifetime? That is how I would describe the soul path.
Right. And so when we're looking at the soul path, I know you and I have separately talked about how people can make up different excuses for reasons to not make changes, right? And, some of that is just you get yourself wrapped up in your identity, and you've got this kind of unconscious concern that if you start making serious changes, who are you even? But you've got these different archetypes that you talk about. Can you describe them for our listeners?
Yeah, so the archetypes that I refer to are the archetypes that Carolyn Myss talks about in her book Sacred Contracts. And these archetypes, everybody has 12 archetypes, which makes up what's known as our archetypal wheel. And this gives us an understanding of why are we drawn to particular things or doing particular things. So, for example, somebody might have teacher as one of their archetypes, and they find themselves throughout life drawn to teaching in one way or another. It doesn't mean that they have to be a teacher, but they're very comfortable in the role of helping others to learn.
Right.
Now, out of the 12 archetypes, we all have a common four that are common to everybody, and that is the prostitute, the victim, the child, and the saboteur. So the archetypes have pluses and minuses, and when one of these four archetypes becomes too dominant, we start to see, for example, victim archetype behavior kicking into our lives and our life pattern. In
Right.
other words, we make excuses as to why we'll never be good enough, or why we never have the money, or why it's always me that gets, I don't know, the flu virus, or all this sort of victim mentality of it's too late for me to change now.
Right.
Now we can bring those archetypes back into balance and help them and get them to work with us rather than work against us.
Oh yeah. How do you do that?
Yeah, I knew you were going to ask that question. That again is a huge question, and it's a case of okay, seeing, oh, I've just gone into victim archetype. Okay, let's look at this from another perspective. The strong side of that might be, well, actually, no, it's not too late. So, thank you, victim, for the message. However, I don't need that right now. I'm going to go and do it anyway. So, by again, recognition of the archetype becoming too strong and rebalance through the actual behaviors and the verbal behaviors that you might have with that archetype, it's like, oh,
Right.
thank you very much for the message, whatever it is, child, prostitute, saboteur. But actually, you know what? I don't need to hear what you're saying. I take it on board. Thank you very much. But now I'm going to go and do it anyway.
Oh, I love that. So I bet there are some listeners saying, are you calling me a prostitute? So can you just walk through all four of them? So you've given us a bit of a description of victim. So what types of language might we be noticing if we were resonating with the prostitute, for example?
So prostitute archetype is clearly, we're not talking about prostitute as in the true sense of the word. We're talking about prostitute behaviors. So a typical prostitute behavior would be, well, I can't stop that job. I can't stop doing that job, even though I hate it, because if I do, we won't have enough money to pay for, I don't know, the kids' schooling.
Right.
Or, well, I wouldn't be able to, keep up my current lifestyle.
Right. That's huge. I mean, I bet there are so many people that are listening that have resonated with both prostitute and or victim, right? I mean, that's so common, these things that we say to ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And in my lifetime, I've been extremely lucky because I've worked only in jobs bar one, which I absolutely love. And therefore, it's natural for me to be there, and I love doing it. But there are a lot of people who are not in jobs that they love doing. Yes, they need to do them because, yes, they need to feed the family or themselves or whatever it is. However, does it need to be that job?
Right.
And therefore, either putting together a plan of action of, okay, I'm going to do this job for another 3 years, and during that time I'm going to put this amount of money on one side, because in my next job, which is the one that I really want to do, I won't be earning this kind of money, and therefore I've got some kind of bank of spare cash that will help supplement that process. And then I'll be doing something that I love, but the drop in salary won't be such a big hit.
Exactly. Yeah, I experienced this personally myself, where I was teaching secondary school. So I'm Canadian, that's why my my accent's different, but I live here in the UK, and I came over to teach secondary school science. And the school system is just so different here from in Canada. And I didn't resonate with it at all. I loved the kids, I loved actually teaching, but I didn't love trying to teach kids how to take a test, and I didn't think that was valuable. and I could see their energy and their excitement for education and about themselves diminishing, because if they weren't good at taking a test, they started to think that they were stupid. You could see that mantra starting to play out in their head, and no words that I could say to them were getting in. They were stuck with that thought process, right? I'm not good enough. I'm never going to be able to do this. Everybody else can take this test but me. That must mean I'm stupid. That means I can't get a job. And you can see like their whole future starting to unfold in front of them with this kind of archetype that they're creating. And I just thought, I can't be part of this. Right? I feel like I'm part of the problem, not the solution. And so even though I love the act of teaching, I can't change this. I can't be the one that changes whether or not the UK decides to stay with these standardized tests, right? That's not in my power. So now I'm unhappy. And then I had this process of, once I realized that this is what I want to do, all the work that I do now with helping others, I had to sit down with my husband and say, of course, both of us came up with that prostitute kind of mentality that we started with. Well, this is a great idea, Lisa, but I can't do this because we have a roof over our head we have to pay for. We've got, my husband has 2 children. We've got to be able to support them. And, the list just keeps growing and growing until I just kind of stopped and said, but that doesn't mean I can't start this now in my very little free time that I had as a teacher. But then that's what I did, is I came up with a game plan to say, all right, I need for me to know that there's an end to this. So the end can be 2 years from now. It doesn't have to be tomorrow. But in 2 years, this is where I need to grow my business so I can leave that. And just like you were saying, I might not be making the same amount of money, but we can get to a point where we can be saving the money that I am making, because it is additional. And then I can leave. And that's exactly what I did last summer, is I left teaching, which was such an amazing feeling. But of course, I didn't realize that it was this prostitute archetype that I was working with. I just realized that I had this language that was going on where I was causing a little bit of doubt. I was making a little bit of excuses. And then I stopped myself and said, no, if you're unhappy, Lisa, you're the only one that can change that. So let's come up with a plan to do that. And I think a lot of people probably do that, but they're not aware that they're working with these different archetypes. And so having this awareness now just might really help them do that a lot faster.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And, well done you.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've learned the hard way over the years, right? I did live in decades worth of being very, very unhappy and just allowing myself to live in that victim archetype. And just knowing about the child and the saboteur, I was just manifesting those 3 like you wouldn't believe. So can you just walk the audience through the child and the saboteur quickly as well?
Yeah, so the child archetype, there are actually several child archetypes. However, in general, the child archetype is, if you can imagine young children in the playground, and when they're in a situation that they don't want to be in, for example, maybe some other kids are bullying them or something like that, they literally cover their face with their hands, because if I can't see you, you can't see me.
Right.
And this means that they're hoping it'll all go away, but if I can't see you, it does go away. And that's the point about the child archetype, is that it either reveals itself in this, well, I'll just ignore that and not deal with issues, or the other opposite, the other end of the scale, where I just keep myself incredibly busy all the time, and then I don't need to think about this.
Oh, so many people can relate to that. Oh my gosh. And then what about the saboteur?
Yeah, so the saboteur exactly is the point of, how am I sabotaging myself? And that means that, am I setting myself up to fail? Maybe because I have an unconscious pattern running of, well, I won't succeed. And therefore everything I set up sets me up to fail, because of that underlying pattern that's been locked in into the emotional or mental body.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
So, why should I apply for that promotion? Because compared to everybody else, I'm not as good.
Yes. This is the perfect spot for a quick break to talk about the planner that changed my life, Daily Greatness. These planners will absolutely blow your mind. Far from a traditional planner, these planners help you overcome your weaknesses, focus on the positive, find and follow your purpose and mission in life, set exciting goals, and follow up on those goals. We all know that our outcomes and results in life are determined by our daily habits. These planners give you the foundation for success that you need to make you more likely to succeed at achieving your goals and reaching your potential. Seriously, they're that good. They have their original version, plus one for business, success, yoga, wellness, and parents. That's 6 versions to help in any situation. To learn more, go to lifelikeyoumeanit.com/planners. Once again, that's lifelikeyoumeanit.com/planners. This link will also be in the show notes. Are you struggling with some areas of your life, disappointed that things have not turned out the way you had hoped or planned? Perhaps you're celebrating your successes in some areas of your life while really feeling you've missed the mark in others. If you've decided you are no longer comfortable with being unhappy and are ready to do the work at your own pace in the comfort of your own home to change your life to one where you feel confidently successful, fulfilled, and greatly satisfied, then my online mini course, Becoming Fulfilled and Satisfied with Your Life, is for you. Head on over to lifelikeyoumeanit.com/fulfilled to register for just £7.20 and crack open your workbook and videos to guide you every step of the way. You'll be tackling your beliefs, how to spot opportunities, and the powerful coaching tool, the Wheel of Life, all with the guidance of me, a qualified NLP practitioner, Reiki master, author, speaker, podcast host, and survivor of 10 years of child abuse. That link again is lifelikeyoumeanit.com/fulfilled. This link is also in the show notes. Are you ready to make some serious changes by living your life like you mean it? I've got just the thing for you. I've created a free 30-day challenge to help you transform your mindset and your emotional well-being. For 30 days, you'll receive a daily email packed with goodness, including a new mindset exercise for you to tackle, as well as fun things like meditations. All you need to do is to commit to this challenge by registering and then opening the emails each and every day and completing your challenges. Simple, right? If you said yes, then you're ready and you know that you deserve this. You can register for free by going to lifelikeyoumeanit.com/challenge. You can also find this link in the show notes. And I could totally see that setting yourself up for failure. I think the greatest example of that, because we're coming into the holiday season now, and actually when this episode airs, will be right around Christmas. So people will be right in the height of thinking about their New Year's resolutions, won't they? And I find people set themselves up for failure with that. They go too big. Right? They've got this really great idea of, I want to completely change my life and I'm going to do it in like 5 days in January. All of a sudden I'm going to join a gym. I'm going to go every day, but I've got to go at 4 a.m. because I'm too busy during the day. And at night, I just don't have the energy. So yeah, I'm definitely committing to that. Right? They're setting themselves up for failure. They've got their head. They think they've got their head, straight and in the game, coming up with this great plan, but they're setting themselves up for failure because they're actually sabotaging themselves before they even get started by choosing an unrealistic time to go to the gym, right? Who's going to get up and go to the gym at 4 a.m. every day or even consistently through the week? I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like classic little things like that we do to ourselves, don't we? Where we have ourselves convinced that we're on our side but we're actually setting ourselves up for failure by making it unrealistic or unattainable in some
Yeah.
sort of way.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so all the people that are listening now are like, oh my gosh, I've got at least one of these is running my show right now, if not all of them. So you're saying the first step with this is to really just get real with yourself and identify which ones of these are running the show and give them some thanks. Don't be judgmental on yourself to be, oh, here I go again. But just give yourself some thanks for recognizing the fact that this is the player that's running the show, and now we're going to see if we can step outside of that by not necessarily quitting our job and not having any income coming in so we could go and do what we love, but starting to make a game plan, for example, of how we could start to put some money aside so that that transition later won't be as scary as what it would be if you were to do it right now in this second.
Yes, absolutely. You know, everything, every change is manageable, and it's not a case of going from black to white. It's a case of going through the different shades of grey in order to get to that white through a period of time, which is reasonable for the individual, depending on what it is that they or he or she wants to do.
Yeah, I love that. And I think a lot of people think that when they realize that they're playing, the child, they're ignoring and they're staying too busy. For example, they think that what they need to do to correct that is to do the complete opposite, when that might, and you could say that for any of these archetypes, right? And it's like, well, doing the complete opposite, like again, with your prostitute example of giving up the job that you don't like in favor for the job that you do like, that's not the first step, right? Coming up with an actual game plan so that you can chunk it down, so that you can create manageable steps that there actually are things that you can do that are not going to push you too far out of your comfort zone, that certainly aren't going to make you destitute financially. But even when we look at like the child going from ignoring everything and staying busy to trying to flip that to its polar opposite may be just too much to start with, but recognizing it and starting to make a plan for little changes that you can make each day, then suddenly that becomes manageable and you start feeling really confident about being able to do this and make these solid changes.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, brilliant. I would like to go back. We very, very briefly mentioned the emotional body, and I know that you do a lot with your work about the different emotions and their involvement with disease. And I know that so many people have heard of this before because it's maybe not the first time, but maybe don't quite understand it. So would you be able to walk us through some of the main emotions that you find are attached to dis-ease and what people might end up noticing that they are dealing with that might actually be emotionally based?
Yeah, so in general, in the physical body, if we're running a pattern of particular disease, the different organs will absorb that emotion. So the key emotions for creating dis-ease are anger and resentment, which would clearly put in their rage as well. So all sort of degrees of anger and resentment, fear, guilt, shame, and grief, or loss, depending on how you think about that. When we look at anger and rage is very often put into the liver and the gallbladder. We have these sayings in language that reflect this. We quickly say, he makes me sick to my stomach.
Oh, yeah.
Which that doesn't reflect in anger, but it is an example of what I mean by these sayings. So we also have, for example, the kidneys all around fear.
Right.
So when we have a fear of something, we might see things like bedwetting in children. We might see some kinds of kidney diseases in adults. And very often there's an underlying issue around fear. Now, whether the person recognizes what the fear is, that's absolutely another question. But it gives us an area in which to look and to start to ask the right questions to help that person to understand where this is coming from and how does it link.
Right. I think I had read years ago about kidneys and fear, and that often can express in low back discomfort just because of the placement of the kidneys. Is that correct?
Yes, yes. So, I mean, back in general, so the spine rather than
Mm.
the back, but the spine itself is all about support.
Right.
When you think of it like that, if you break your spine, you no longer have support. And that's very often a manifestation when we feel unsupported in back pain, or back pain is a manifestation when we feel unsupported. In that unsupport doesn't have to be from another person, it can be a financially and any other type of support structure that is not in someone's life.
That is fascinating. Oh, wow. Okay, so what other types of diseases or maybe areas of pain could be expressing?
Well, I mean, the heart, clearly, the heart is the center of joy. The heart is, it's the center of the whole reason why we are physically alive. And literally, that there is a good saying, I've got a broken heart. When somebody, has had a terrible relationship, or a relationship that they were very much in love with, the other person fall apart, and they walk away with a broken heart, that's literally what has happened, is that the heart has broken. And therefore we see, no longer any joy. Well, when there's no joy in your life, what starts to happen? The heart starts to say, hang on a minute, I'm not happy. And then we start to see heart related diseases, hypertension, hypotension, maybe, the worst end of that line of strokes, heart attacks, all these things.
That is so incredible. I mean, I'm like everybody else. I've had my heart broken in the past before, and it does. I remember, I mean, I don't remember it clearly, but I remember feeling like it really does feel like somebody has taken a sledgehammer to my chest. And I remember thinking that expression, right? Brokenhearted. And it's like, it doesn't sound reasonable, right? There's nothing that's physically been done to my heart, but the energy from the emotions that has happened, that's so true. Oh my goodness. So what can we do then to try to create balance with our emotions?
So just to sort of bring the previous bit a little bit to a conclusion, is that we can't only say, for example, because we've got a heart disease, that it's related to broken heart. We need to take a much bigger picture, understanding that we are whole. And this is where complementary or alternative practitioners come into their own, because we don't look at just the heart, we look at the whole picture, which links to your question of, well, what can we do? So if it's related to the heart, what would bring me joy? Am I in the wrong job? Am I not seeing enough of my family and friends? Am I not doing what I really love in terms of my sport? Am I not creating me time? So that there's so much that can be asked around that question. And similarly with things that are reflecting anger. What are the things that are causing your anger? What are the things that have caused your anger that you have manifested on the physical? Who or what do you need to forgive? What patterns of behavior have you still got running as a result of that we need to unlock to allow you to move forward with greater joy, acceptance, and flow? So there are many things that we can do, and things such as breathing. Deep breathing is very helpful. Things like qigong, tai chi, yoga, meditation, also very helpful in not allowing these patterns to create blockages, and to also start the process of unblocking what we've already blocked. Because we're all human and we all get curveballs thrown at us in life, and that's just the part of being human, isn't it? Sometimes we lose loved ones, sometimes we have financial difficulties, or we're made redundant, or I don't know, one of our children, God forbid, ends up in a terrible accident. There are all kinds of things that happen to us. And the question is, how do we meet those situations to work with them rather than block them?
Yes. Oh, I love that. I love that. So really, I mean, it seems like there's a trend in what you're talking about, which is awareness, right? Becoming aware of yourself and what's kind of running your show and what's showing up there emotionally and physically and these archetypes that you had spoken about as well. And right. So it's really having a true sense. And I find a lot of people that find their way to me, and I'm sure with you as well, they kind of get so caught up in life that they're just going through the motions and they don't even know anymore what they like to do and what gives them any joy, whether they're just so caught up in their work or their family. They've got a husband or wife or girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever, and they've kind of taken on their interests. And they just kind of get so wrapped up with life that they're not really living life with any kind of purpose, right? They're not putting any kind of real energy into their life. And so it's so easy to actually lose touch with yourself and what emotions are actually there, where they came from. Are they causing any blockages? Which archetype is running my show right now? Can I be working with this instead of, allowing them to just kind of drive me further into this blockage?
Yes, I think, you're spot on there, Lisa, because in general, in the Western world, we are very wrapped up in what we have as opposed to who we are in the real sense of the word. I'm not talking who we are in terms of rank or superiority or position or anything of this nature, who we truly are, and connecting with the inner self to manifest the outward joy, positivity, gratitude that for what we have around us, rather than going to a shopping center and buying, I don't know, a new TV or a new set of clothing or a new something. And we need to do this now and again. I'm not saying we don't, but we do tend to cover up, not getting in touch with ourselves.
Yes, absolutely. Now, I'm just looking at when this episode is going to air, and I think it's going to air right around Christmas. So either mid-December or maybe even the 23rd. And just as you're talking about, going and buying stuff for yourself and whatnot, and me talking about how we get so wrapped up in things, there is no greater time for us to kind of put ourselves last in terms of self-care and what we need and staying connected, because we're trying to get everything together for Christmas. And there's definitely no other time in the year that we are putting all of our energies into materialism, right? What we have, what we're going to be giving to other people, what we might be getting back from other people, right? And it just, that whole holiday season tends to be such a stressful time. And I think a lot of people maybe don't realize that some of that stress, at least, is coming from this kind of emotional side that we're talking about, and this mental side, all these 5 bodies that you have previously spoken about, right? And having this kind of lack of awareness that's happening. We know that we're stressed because we've got so much more we have to do on top of our regular day to get ready for Christmas. We've got financial responsibilities with having to purchase all of these things for other people. And so we're aware that that is causing stress. But I don't think a lot of people realize the underlying causes of some of that stress. So do you have any top tips for people listening now over the holidays to try to help them create more of a balance to reduce some of that level of stress?
I'm laughing because it's the one time of year that I really dislike.
Yeah.
Because of all this hype around spending money to a certain extent unnecessarily.
Yeah.
And that, of course, that's a value judgment on my side, and I don't mean it that way. For me, that time of year is about being with friends and family and enjoying those relationships around a time of year, which is very special. Again, some people are religious, some people not religious. It doesn't matter. It is a time that's been cut out in many cultures for time with friends and family, and sitting down to food, whatever that food is. Again, it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
And just enjoying being together, and the true sense of what that means, rather than going into a frenzy of worry about, well, do I need, I don't know, do I need 5 vegetables with the turkey, or will 3 be enough? I've sort of simplified it, but I personally think that we get sucked into all the commercials that go out, whether they're on telly or they're in billboards or at the movies or wherever they are, about the Christmas and how it should look, rather than how we feel it would be lovely to have. And then we start to compare ourselves to others, and then it all falls apart, and we get hooked into this wheel of frenzy.
Absolutely. It's so true. It's so true. Oh, I love that. Thank you so much for that. You're not the first guest to say that we've got in our holiday special here over the Christmas season. And I think that really says a lot, right? With more than one expert talking about the need to really take a look at what's important and the whole true meaning of Christmas, and spending time with the people that you love, and that doesn't have to mean that we're fretting about how much money we're spending on their gift. And my sister and I are classic with this, because I love getting a gift card, because I think that is great. That means that when I'm out and about, and in Canada we've got these big shopping malls, kind of like Westgate in Oxford, right? And so that's really where predominantly all our shopping is done, is these big shopping malls. And so if I get a gift card for the shopping mall, that means that when I'm there the next time and I happen to have my gift card with me and I happen into whatever store, I can buy something that I actually really need or really just fall in love with in that moment. But
Yeah.
my sister, she loves to get a gift card as well, but she refuses to give the gift card because she feels like it is, one of those non-thoughtful gifts. She feels like if she gives the gift card, the person is going to feel like she has put zero thought or effort into this whatsoever, and that's not how she wants to leave them feeling. So I always ask her, well, do you feel that way when you get the gift card from me? I'm always given a gift card. So do you know what I mean? I end up trying to NELP her, as we say in the NLP world. We're trying to get her to think outside of the box a little bit, to be like, well, wait a second. You don't feel like I've not given any thought to giving you a gift card. So why are you putting so much effort into going out and picking a lovely candle for somebody that maybe they don't even want or need that candle, but you're just spending the money for the sake of spending the money to give them something, where you could spend the same money and give them a gift card that allows them to get whatever it is that they might need, right? But it's that whole kind of stigma that she's got attached to the giving of the gift card. And it causes her a great deal of stress, because it means all of the people that are just kind of acquaintances. I mean, she's got a little girl, right? So she's got daycare for her little girl, and then she's got after school care for the little girl, right? So my little niece has these people in her lives that my sister doesn't really know, but wants to give them something as a show of appreciation, which is lovely. But then she's causing herself so much stress to try to figure out, what should I give them to show them how much I appreciate them, but I don't actually know them to know what they need or want. To me, I'm always like, gift card. It doesn't matter what you give, just give them a gift card. And she refuses. Like, I can't even imagine the amount of stress that she is causing herself over just not getting a gift card for someone, right? But it's what we do to ourselves. It's what society kind of programs us to do to ourselves, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, well, thank you so much for all of this, Rachel. How can people find out more about you and maybe book an appointment with you if they're in the Oxfordshire area?
So I have my website, which is www.greenkeyhealth.co.uk. and on there you can book in if you want. If you want to talk to me first, the contact number is also on there, together with my blogs get put on there as well.
Excellent. And I'll provide links for the website as well as all your social media sites as well in the show notes so people can easily find you. So don't worry, listeners, about running out and grabbing a pen and paper. That will all be in the show notes for you. And I should mention that you've got your clinic in the Wantage area, but then you also have a couple of other clinics outside of that area that you run as well. So go ahead to Rachel's website so you can see where she's available, where and when, and you can book right from her website. Thank you so much for being on the show, Rachel, and for all of your tips. I just know that the listeners are running to try to figure out which archetype is running their show, what their emotions are, and how that's coming out and expressing themselves. It's just been a wealth of information. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Lisa. Thank you very much for inviting me. And I hope I have been useful to listeners. And I'd be glad to interact if anybody has any questions.
Wonderful. Wow, I am floored. I am not kidding when I say that I can resonate with all 4 of those archetypes Rachel went through. For the most part, I recognize them when they pop up, even if I didn't really know what they were until today, and I work my way through them. But was this episode ever a hold the mirror up kind of episode, or what? So, what archetypes did you resonate with? What excuses or behaviors that Rachel spoke about typically run your show? Are you the prostitute who really wants change but finds yourself saying you can't make the change and still pay for X, Y, or Z? Are you the victim who feels it's too late for you to change now, always wondering why me? Are you the child who is running and hiding from what pushes you out of your comfort zone, whether that's through avoiding the situation or person altogether, or through keeping busy with everything else in life so you don't have the time to deal with it? Or are you the saboteur who talks the big talk, but when it comes to walking it, you fail because you've actually set yourself up for failure? The more important question is, now that you've identified which archetype is running your show, what are you going to do about it? Will you continue on business as usual, or will you choose to look at the situation from a different perspective, thank the archetype for showing up and passing along the message, and stand up for yourself by stating that you don't need that right now? You're going to do it anyway. The choice is yours. It always has been. Maybe now that you understand what's driving these excuses and behaviors, you'll feel the empowerment that knowledge brings. Thank you to my expert guest today, Rachel Shackleton, for this amazing conversation and her fantastic tips. As always, Rachel's website and social media links are available in the show notes. And thank you for listening to another episode of the Life Like You Mean It podcast. Now go be honest with yourself on which of these archetypes is dominant and come up with a game plan to bring it back into balance, and marvel at how fast your patterns change.
Thanks for listening to the Life Like You Mean It podcast. Head on over to the show notes for this episode and all past episodes at www.lifelikeyoumeanit.com/blog. If you love the show, leave a rating and review. Share that love by spreading the word. Post a link to your social media. Share it with your friends and follow or subscribe to the podcast on your favorite podcast hosting site. Thanks so much for tuning in. Until next time, remember to live your life on purpose by living life like you mean it.